Hello everybody, and welcome to another edition of Southern Shadows and Dust. On this nice mild autumn day, we're at Pine Grove Cemetery in Mexia, Alabama. Also, area used to be known as Tekoa up in here, and at this cemetery there's several graves, some of which have a greater meaning for this individual, and we'll turn around and take a look at them. First grave I wanted to show you in this cemetery is a grave of John William McKinley, born February 1st, 1845, died March 11th, 1904. He was born in Franklin. His father was Joseph McKinley, who was the son of Isham McKinley, who was one of the early McKinleys that come to Monroe County from over in Georgia. John William, barely 16 years of age, rode a mule from up around Franklin to Claiborne, Alabama, and joined the Confederate cavalry, joining the 1st Alabama Cavalry Division, which organized at Montgomery in 1861. From there, they were at Shiloh, which was a horrendous battle in the war between the states, and they also went from there to, they were at the battle of several other battles, but another notable one was the Battle of Stones River, also known as the Battle of Murfreesboro, and it was here that John William McKinley and 3 cousins, one of which was Isham Benjamin McKinley, they were captured near a creek during this battle, and they were sent to Camp Douglas, which is now mostly absorbed by present-day Chicago, Illinois. Camp Douglas, also known as 40 Acres of Hell, was a horrendous POW camp on the Union side, where a lot of these men had to sleep on cots that were halfway, 2 or 3 inches thick in human waste, and a lot of them died of typhus and all of that. It was so bad that people in Chicago would sometimes help the POWs escape. The Lincoln administration briefly closed Camp Douglas, and they swapped Confederate prisoners for Union prisoners at Port Royal, Virginia, and that's how John William McKinley and Isham got back to their Confederate lines. Isham suffered from a nutritional defect because he didn't get enough to eat while he was at Camp Douglas, so he spent some time in the Tunnel Springs Military Hospital in Georgia. John William came back, however, and rejoined the 1st Alabama Cavalry just in time to be involved in the Battle of Chickamauga. Now, prior to that, even before their capture, the different companies in the 1st Alabama would sometimes be detached to other regiments. For a short time prior to this period, John Williams' company was detached to General Nathan Bedford Forrest's cavalry, particularly the Wiggins Battery, which was a light artillery outfit that rode in support, and they were from Arkansas. That regiment was virtually destroyed in a couple of battles, and so they would have ended up back with the 1st Alabama, and then ultimately at Chickamauga. Now, at Chickamauga, John William was wounded by an exploding grape shot, which was a sort of fragmentation cannonball that blew up over the top of them, and the remains fell down, the shrapnel. He was wounded by that, but he stayed with the regiment from there till the end of the war, having surrendered in North Carolina near Raleigh, Salisbury area, and then those men had to walk home to Monroe County from there. When he came back, he was a railroad laborer and a farmer, and then he began drawing his Confederate pension in the late 1890s. Another local veteran, W.H. Seal, wrote a sort of affidavit and said he was with John William when he was captured and sent to Ship Island. Now, of course, he wasn't sent to Ship Island. He was sent to Camp Douglas based upon records at the National Archives in Washington. But that is an interesting bit of curiosity that I can only attribute to the passage of some 30 or 40 years since the events, and maybe W.H. Seal's memory wasn't exactly what it was at that time, unless he was captured a second time. But by that time, that was written after John William McKinley died of an enlarged heart on March 11th, 1904. His widow, Nancy Wells McKinley, which may very well be buried in this spot next to John William, she drew that pension, and then she died roughly around 1916. Now, among their children was a Joseph McKinley, who was my great-grandfather, and his first wife, which would have been my great-grandmother, Callie Dees McKinley, is buried here as well. They lived at the end of what's now Rupel Road in Excel, Sugar Hill, and she died of some sort of fever on March 4th, 1913. The old home is still there where they lived. Some say it's haunted. They say you can see a figure in a white dress, a young girl, move across the floor, and there's certain places in that house where it's particularly cold. And this has been conveyed to me by various people, most of which didn't even know each other when they told me the stories. Let's take another look around at some of these other graves here.